No Stitches yet in North America, but you know who's playing a whole lot of them?
China and Europe. That's who. They are busting out the Stitches left and right. You know, Team Dignitas kind of pulls back to it once in a while.
E-Star played it in every game they won versus X-Team.
Yeah.
3 games in a row, Stitches.
I'm still, you know, that's one of the life mysteries of China that I'm still trying to figure out. Because it's been about 6 months of them, you know, weaving it in here and there. It's like, oh, what warrior are you going to pick? And they're like, what if we Stitches, you know? But now it's like, it's a thing. Like, it is full-blown, this is a part of the meta, the Stitches.
Stitches will play in the Nexus in China. We are right in the middle of a series with Game 1 done in the bag very fast for Tempo Storm. Now we'll see where Game 2 is going to take place. Team Freedom, always choosing first pick, are going to continue to do that. And that means that Tempo Storm has chosen Dragonshire.
We're back to the Dragon of Shire. Game 1 was on a map that we normally expect to go for a long period of time. Dragonshire is another one of those kind of slower maps. Will Tempo Storm have the same dominance? I'll be honest, if I see a 7-minute game on Dragonshire, that's a lot more impressive than that of Curse Hollow. I'd be down.
Same.
I don't even know how you do that, to be honest, other than a huge 3-man wipe with stacking three mercenaries on bottom. How do you win Dragonshire in under 7 minutes? That's the only way. You get the Giants, you get the Knights, you took out the fort, and then you stack the other Giants, and you just go, this is it, we fight on bottom.
You'd have to get kills on the keep as you were doing that. Enough kills and cycle them out, rotate them so that nobody was ever enough. And maybe, you know, have another Illidan to juke and jive over the core.
Illidan's really nice. Sanctification's pretty good when it comes to killing the core, too. Malfurion's going to be the first pick for Freedom. Where does Tempo move? It's going to be back to the Falstad. There's an Arthas, there's a Tychus. No global is picked up yet. But Tempo Storm have done this on Dragonshire. They like their Arthas very high up, but they're also one of the few that are willing to run him top if they need. They flex him, which I personally felt like was part of the reason I thought Arthas would rise higher to every team in North America, based on the fact that, again, the amount of information you give away in a draft. Arthas can run in double warrior perfectly, solo and a solo laner. He legitimately can do a little bit of everything, which is why I've always felt like we would have seen more teams other than Tempo just pick him, you know, and just be like, well, we can run a double, we can run whatever.
But look at the team who is running him as such. You have 2 strong, solid Arthas players on that. Caterpillar used to be a warrior player. He has played a lot of Arthas before. Fury, that's his favorite hero, at least as long as I have known him. He loves Arthas. So I'm sure it's a battle of, no, I get to play Arthas this time. Wait, no, but it's mine this time. Yeah, they are able to flex it as such. Dahaka ban maybe even furthers the idea that Arthas is going to be in the top lane.
Yeah, I think it seals the deal, really. Either that or it's going to lead to another synergistic pick on the side of Tempo Storm that has free reign of the top lane in this next rotation, and Dahaka's the only matchup that can beat it.
Tempo Storm has run a couple of different kinds of compositions on Dragonshire so far in Part 2. The Kael'thas extreme crowd control lockdown kill comp, and then as well as a Zeratul roam, who can roam around and get picks from that as well. To be
fair, the Zeratul roam strategy was into a Falstad top. So, you know, you know, you're not wrong. We are currently looking at Falstad as one of 2 possible solo laners so far into Freedom's draft. But the Zeratul, you know, got away with a lot more because of that. And the Kael'thas lockdown strategy after that last ban is just not even an option here. Tempo.
Wasn't Kael'thas also banned by Superstars, which is what prompted into the Zeratul Realm 2? Som was not allowed to play his Kael'thas after the strong showing twice that Tempo showed here.
Yeah, and with that KT ban, the Dahaka removed. It's who can match into the Arthas while not being vulnerable into the Zeratul. Ragnaros is vulnerable to the Zeratul. Sonya is a little bit, but she's, you know, better than most. We'll find out. Next to pick for Tempo, soon to be, I mean, Lucio. No, it's going to be a Rhaegar and a noob. Okay.
Tempo Storm has not played Lucio.
Yeah, that's a good point. They just not on the Lucio train.
How can you not with this music?
He's been doing pretty well statistically, right? Like, I mean, he's
right around 50.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing okay, enough to be justified as a pick. I was trying to figure out, other than, because they are, the only ones. They could be looking more internationally what we see, because there are, even Korea, some of the lowest value of Lucio, way lower than I thought they would. That is probably one of the biggest whiffs I've ever had when it comes to priority over hero when looking at Korea.
He's the 6th highest picked hero in NA HGC, but sitting around 50 or a game from it.
All right.
Some of the highest win rates, though. Greymane,
Imagine
Still
that.
Up, Lunara, Anubarak, and Murden. Those are with enough sample size, too. Tyrael Murden to round things out for Team Freedom's composition.
Can I just say the fact that we see a hero picked for Freedom that's headed to the top lane just makes me so excited. The fact that they actually have the Tyrael to move up there, I thought for a moment they would neglect it. Because I've just seen that a little bit too much, I feel like, at this point, where it's just like everybody waits on their top laner until the top lane matchup is just so skewed towards one side winning that it throws off the entire game. But now, Tyrael placeholding is just kind of like, you both just don't really do much. That's it. I think that's really going to be able to help out Team Freedom here in this game.
Team Freedom traditionally does a good job of knowing when to prioritize each lane in their draft. That's what's allowed them to do well on Braxis historically. Tempo Storm, one last pick, Gul'dan for the 4-man.
Gul'dan for the 4-man. What's your rap name?
DJ Gilly Goat.
DJ G-Weed or something would have been a lot better. Whatever. Gilly Goat? Seriously? That's out of the... Okay.
The hellbilly that I ride around in the Nexus so much is where I got that name.
Is the Gilly Goat. DJ Gilly Goat here tonight with you guys, ladies and gentlemen. What type of music do you dish out when you're DJing like that?
Oh, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So
you're the people pleaser DJ? Like, you
I take requests.
Okay, so...
Never the chicken dance, though.
So, okay, so, like, let's just say, other than chicken dance, if I wanted to put on one of those stereotypical, a song that narrates on how I should be dancing to it, if I posture one of those, are you down to follow up? Like when everybody
like
in the
one hop.
Yeah, exactly. When
one
it's like
hop.
It's literally somebody narrating like, "Oh,
Slide
this is what you."
left.
Don't you find that a little creepy that you can just suggest a song that just tells you what to do, and then suddenly everybody in the room is just casually doing?
Yeah, because if they feel self-conscious about dancing to say a hip beat like Lucio's, then everyone has to do the same thing, so no one can make fun of them.
Is that how you do it? Nobody gets to be a snowflake, so therefore everybody's equally make funnable-ish enough words?
Yes.
Okay.
Indeed it is.
Today I learned. Figured it out here at
another,
the desk.
Another Dread wisdom. As he learns, so do we. And we may just learn something from this game, too. That's the best segue I could come up with. Game 2, Team Freedom versus Tempo Storm.
It was weak.
That whole banter.
I was going to honestly, I was going to kick this off as this was game number 1, but I forgot that we had a 7-minute match on Cursed Hollow right before this.
Good thing I'm throwing in, although I've done that a few times.
Let's do it. I'm ready. Dragonshire. Freedom has a well-rounded draft. So does Tempo Storm. It's just whether or not they have it within themselves. You know, if they can find the raging passion to improve. That was pretty bad, huh? Oh, man.
If they truly can find how to rustle the jimmies of Tempo Storm.
You know, at least they got a creative level 1 coming out the gates here for Freedom.
Where are we sitting? Where are they at? Says Tempo Storm. Oh, Cattle.
And he gets free stacks as always. Whenever Cattle ends up playing Arthas, he pretty much just gets the most free Howling Blast stacks, it feels like, for his level 1 that we could ask for.
Not bad, not bad.
All right, all right, all right.
That was Zombie Wall trapping a teammate. Hopefully that's the only time we see that, but you never know when you're going to get his Gilly Zombie Wall.
You know, it's probably the best way. Actually, I've learned that the best way to win over favor of your friends in Hero League whenever you're playing. So whenever the gate drops, if you drop the Zombie Wall and trap everybody in it, they really, really like that. If you're in an intense game, about to get promoted, you're like, man, I'm just a step away from Platinum. How do I get out of Gold 1? promo match. You pick Nazebo, you drop the zombie wall right as a cage drop. Your team will be so friendly, so on the same page. There's no way you can lose.
I'll have to remember that. Thank you, Dread.
Yeah.
I'm sure that'll make everyone like me a lot more when I play Nazebo.
It legitimately naturally spikes your MMR by a minimum of 50,000.
Kind of like Skinnergy.
Yeah, that's only like, 5 compared to the 50,000 is what you gain out of that zombie wall.
Well, there you go.
That's like 3
Tips
more.
at home, friends, as well as what the teams do here. The rotations on Dragonshire. It's a toughie. Falstat's flying up. This may be the first kill.
Cattle's way out of position. The body blocks are real. He just goes, well, can't go this way. We will try the other way out.
Bought enough time for a new Barak to come save the day.
I just thought there was no chance they let him live.
Yeah.
Cattle was like, all right, well, I obviously can't go this way. And then Freedom was like, well, he figured out our master plan. We blocked off only half of the highway.
Maybe the concern was that with both of the shrines being taken, they were scared that Tempo would sneak the Dragon Knight.
And part of it is more of like the information that known to the team through rotations, because they had no idea where the Anubarak was, and conveniently he was on top. Like, they would have met somebody else, but the fact they didn't even question it, they were just like, nope, that's the end of that one.
Very quickly willing to give up the kill on Cattle. Maybe they just want to scare Cattle. Oh, but they are going to lose Murden in the top lane. Coming back to bite them, not getting that pick. And Tempo Storm continues to control the shrines.
Will they be able to pick up the Dragon Knight? They will here. First DK, 2 minutes and 53 seconds into the match. Tempo Storm, it's usually a bit more patient than we saw with B-Step. When it comes to the use of the Dragon Knights, they'll try and buy as much time out of that 40-second timer as you can, especially when the ammo's drained here up in mid.
And having Gul'dan and Rhaegar to siege in the bottom lane. It's a double whammy that Tempo Storm are pulling out in this early Dragon Knight phase. Tychus chose in the rhythm. This is the second time that we've seen that pick. Oh. Someone's like, look, I could do this too.
June was caught out on the bottom part of the map, though. Uncharacteristic to our leading KDA member of all North America. They're going to get the value out of that front wall on the Dragon Knight here. And now it's all about the Merc phase of Dragonshire. Freedom's going to start with their Giants. Fury knows. See if anybody looks to join him.
What is this Tychus build?
Give me the breakdown, Gilly. What is confusing?
Well, first in the rhythm is just not nearly as favored as the bigger they are now. And then adding that concussion grenade, which is increasing the radius of frag grenade, but also the knockback distance, so greater knockback. Is this a...
I would like to tell you, I've got the answer.
What is it?
See, that's why I started with this word.
I would like to tell you?
I would like to tell you.
I thought you were just like, no, I would like to tell you the answer. Here it is.
No,
just a statement that is...
Yeah, improper timing of my pauses.
Yeah.
I'll take the blame for that one. To be, I do feel like that was on me, but I cannot come up with an argument for that. Not one that kind of jumps out. There's no person that, getting a knockback on seems to be really helpful for. In either team.
Only thought is, what if Falstad's going to aggressively fly behind and they just knock him back further? I don't know either. Well, let's just watch and see how it's going to... I'm trying.
I like that. She goes, no, I've got the counter argument. Zugrug, he's outie. You're like, take a minute. I think I've got him figured out. And then you start saying it, and you're like, okay, I don't.
Yeah, the longer that sentence went on, the less sure I was about this option.
Like, well, if you take a minute to look here, and you're like, oh, yeah, that doesn't make sense either. You Falstad behind the team. What if we knock him farther away? I don't know. But we'll see. The only one I came up with was, you can better help a friend get outside of zombie wall. That's all I got so far.
We'll watch. Maybe even we'll get to ask about it. For the rest of the builds look pretty standard. Heroic abilities here. Tempo Storm still considering. We've seen them pick Cocoon before.
We've seen it all out of Arthas and Anubis. Both.
Syndra.
All right, so that means... I want to say I feel like that means automatically we will have a Locust Swarm, but I've I've seen crazier things. Cocoon has become, it is going to be chosen. It has become more and more popular as time's gone on, and I am struggling to try and figure out when is the circumstances for team's thought process on what's right and wrong there. Zugrug had the dwarf toss interrupted, so he's got no escape. There's a Cocoon.
Syndragosa as well. Zugrug taken out, and the team turns on the Cocoon target. Howling Blast, but Nazmus barrel rolled away. He gusts too. He tried so hard and got so far.
That was a case of anything that could go wrong pretty much did for Tempo Storm. Oh man, that was from the Howling Blast down to the burrow. Everything just looked like it was crumbling. Falstad though did not make it out. 4 kills here for Tempo.
He tried though, Nazmus did try hard. He had the barrel roll immediately as he got out. I was rooting for Nazmus a little bit there, but Tempo Storm still able to get the 2 picks as well as throw out Syndragosa, so they're gonna get a fort, continuing their dominance. It's not the same as Cursed Hollow. They weren't able to get as many picks, and as you said, it is Dragonshire, so not gonna be able to end the game right away, but things still looking grand for our #1 team in North America.
Good collapse here from Freedom. Fury is gonna just do a Nubarak things. Even, you know, Nazmus decided to join the party here on bottom. It's a 5 versus 5 here in the southern lane on Dragonshire. Game #2 of this series. 13 tier is going to be in sight soon for Tempo Storm. Can Freedom, or does Freedom, decide to try and force a fight before that point? No, they quickly disengage.
Does this get sniffed out? June is checking, sees that Team Freedom have grabbed their Giants, but Tempo Storm are okay with that. They'll grab the Dragon Knight instead with this 13 advantage.
Again, just no respect for the mid 4.
Okay, so that's the stuff to follow up within the rhythm.
Sowing's the Tychus fluctuation build. Fluctuation in the build. One of those 3 ways was the proper way to structure that sentence.
As many fluctuations in words as with the talents themselves.
Where's the Syndragosa? I guess it's in the Dragon Knight actually. Found it.
Yep.
Found it. You can't. Oh my gosh! You can't throw out dragons when you are a dragon.
That makes sense.
Does it? See, I thought that was backwards.
The wisdom.
You can't throw out a dragon because you are in fact a dragon.
He may throw it out here though if he can get Team Freedom to chase any further. Freedom do not take the bait. They also don't lose too much structurally. They are still falling farther and farther behind in experience, but as long as they can get up to the next talent tier, try to force a fight before 16, where Tempo Storm will get a big power spike with their Gul'dan, then Team Freedom might be able to turn this one around.
They might be able to, and they're going to need to, because now that the map has managed to open up, both top and bottom forts are removed. Tempo Storm not only has advantage when it comes to control of the objective in those shrines, but they have more open on the map, more opportunity to start looking towards those keeps. Freedom has to find a spot here, and I feel like it's going to be in this 13 to what is most likely going to be a 15 fight. As they know that they're on this bottom camp. Everybody knows everyone is involved.
Falstad starting to move in. Syndragosa goes down, and it's on all of the members of Team Freedom stuck in this chokehold. Fury goes for the dive. Ancestral Healing connects in time, but Nubarak was still stuck inside of the zombie wall, so that is the kill that Team Freedom so desperately needed in this game.
They go in, the gust lands, it splits only Cattle just barely out of range. The 4-man Horrify though buys not enough time. That is going to be both members going down 1 for 1 after getting the initial pick there on the Nubarak. Freedom fighting here in this game as we are 25 seconds away from another Dragon Knight.
Thank goodness Nazmus did not get hit by that Horrify, because he was enough damage to get a kill on Caterpillar, so it still was a favorable trade for Team Freedom. They got 2 kills to the 1 on Tyrael. However, Freedom are not out of it yet. They still have a level to go until they catch up with Tempo Storm, and Tempo are getting closer and closer to the 16 talent tier, and shrines are activating right now.
Freedom needs to try and force something, anything at this point in time. Otherwise, that 16 talent tier is going to set them farther back enough to be able to get a free Dragon Knight over to Tempo Storm, and is what is most likely going to be at least half a keep at this point in the game. Tempo Storm not even risking anything. They're up in the top lane, just waiting until they manage to get that spike. And then they can risk, you know, going off sides, if you will.
Holding on to the top. Tempo Storm immediately move in as Tyrael walks away.
Members of Freedom have moved up towards top. Now deciding they want to go back towards mid. It's a dance on Dragonshire, a lot about the laning and all about rotations, sometimes the lack thereof. But all without a 16 talents here means Freedom wants nothing to do with Tempo.
Freedom would love to be able to catch out Cattle here in the top lane, but they're also trying to make sure that they can keep up with the soak in all 3 lanes. So I haven't been able to commit a lot of members to the top lane versus Cattle. They're also trying to push out the bottom lane if they can, so maybe they could go and get that shrine, but that's where Tempo Storm has made their stronghold. And now both shrines controlled. No 16 yet for Team Freedom. They move into bottom. Can they get it in time, or will this be a Dragon Knight? Looks like the latter. Tempo Storm get the dragon.
And Freedom still half a level away from 16s. That is not what they wanted on their Dragon Knight status update. Tempo Storm trying to aid the minion wave to be able to help them get that damage out. Syndragosa is, in fact, not a part of a dragon. So double the dragons.
Double the fun.
Here it
goes.
For
Tempo Storm. Syndragosa, Fury's going to kick. Odin drops down, and the siege begins. 20 seconds where this keep cannot fire back, and Team Freedom are on their own in the defense. Gus to buy time, burn down the Dragon Knight. They're doing a fantastic job with this. The keep isn't down yet, but it should likely fall even as the Dragon Knight drops.
It's the power of the Syndragosa disabled. They're not zoning away Tempo Storm after the Dragon Knight itself no longer can tank, and that is going to be 2 heroics used, but a keep gained. Freedom did get the damage out onto the Dragon Knight. You saw how Falstad and Nazeebo can really rip through that. And now that we are 16 for Freedom, they have the Nazeebo power spike that they're going to want. Zugrug goes in with the Dwarf Toss. Goes ahead and throws down that Thunder Burn there, but he's taking a lot of damage. He's not in the Sanctification Zone yet. Holy Ground does get the Giants here for Freedom. That's a 5-man. Horrified, though. No kill is going to be gained yet. As Cawthon moved deep for it, and Nubarak getting the flank.
Fury might be the one who's caught. They have the Roots as well as Twilight Dream. Holy Ground pushes him away, and Insomnia finds the kill on a Nubarak. Good Holy Grounds from Team Freedom, from Insomnia, both to steal the camp, Sanctification to keep his co-tank alive, and then even separate a Nubarak away, getting a kill in this desperate time.
What can Freedom make happen here over the 25-second advantage that they have? Nazeebo soaking up on top and has shown, so now Tempo Storm really doesn't have much to worry. They view it as a 4 versus 4. It is, man, that window right here for Freedom. This is one of the hardest things about Heroes of the Storm. They got a kill at a point where no major objective was up on a map, where the objective itself isn't that strong. So what do you do to come back? Because you know the camps themselves aren't going to do much, and they only buys time for Tempo Storm to back out. But if you force a fort, most of the time a 4 versus 5 defense on a fort without an advantage usually leads to that team defending being okay. And so it's just one of those downsides to Dragonshire is that you have to be able to open up the map and on those early Dragon Knights. Otherwise, you see moments like that where Freedom gets an upper hand and they just go, well, that's all we get. It's just 1 kill on an Arthas or an Anu at that time.
And they used some long heroic ability timers to get that kill, but thankfully for Freedom, Tempo Storm weren't able to strike back before Freedom had Sanctification and Twilight Dream back available. So now everything is up. But Tempo Storm still with the lead, still in experience. Team Freedom is doing their very best to catch up, utilizing this fall stat, allowing Nasmus to split soak in the top lane.
Cattle just gonna throw out the Howling Blast. Falstad gets the cap on top. Tychus is posting up on mid, making sure no sneaky Dragon Knight happens here for Freedom. But for once, it feels like they have control of the positioning of Tempo Storm. Fury gets on point. Smart to put Fury there, not Cattle, because that Holy Ground split Insomnia was looking for.
Falstad's going to mid to push that back. Sees Tychus there too. Maybe he could fly in and try to get a play before Tychus can join up with the team.
Tychus rotates down. Falstad will see that right now as the Howling Blast did come out. Insomnia going to be fine. Zugrug looks to turn. Falstad joins the fight. Nasmus is going to be here. They move in. Holding ground didn't split anybody yet. Another Howling Blast appeal, but Cattle took a lot of damage.
There is the Holy Ground to separate Fury once again. He has Burrow Charge and will have to use it to get back out. Syndragosa and Odin's already down. Immediate Gust to disengage.
It does buy the disengage here, and they have Sanctification still available. We'll see if they get value out of that in this fight, but this is the only pre-20 fight Freedom is going to get.
And they're running.
And they're running. So what now for Freedom? Because that was it, you know? I often talk about looking at decisions at times at which you took them if you had the option before. I feel like this is one where Freedom goes, they're going to volunteer for that 20 fight when they're down in talent tier and be like, you know, we might have wanted to take that the first time.
At the very least, Team Freedom forced out some major abilities from Tempo Storm before that 25. There's no Syndragosa, there's no Odin for this too, so it's a lot of damage down and a control over the fight. Team Freedom are going to do their best to buy time until they can get 20. Falstad was up on top. Caterpillar sees that.
Fight is still going to be there for Nasmus. Even burnt the cooldown. So now Tempo Storm has the advantage not only for 20, but in rotations.
No! Stormbolt not long enough to stop Psalm. Psalm gets the Dragon Knight just as Freedom were getting so close to 20. Can they get that and try to sustain before Tempo Storm goes for the end of this series? Nope, end of the game.
Well, Tempo is not looking to go lethal yet. At least that is the positive side for Freedom. It's the fact that Tempo Storm is not deciding, you know, we're over this, we're going to look to end the game. They're going to go for a double key play. And it starts with the Syndragosa. They get a couple of picks. They can set their eyes onto the core. For now, it's all about the keep. Going down to 50%, forcing the Gust, so that's going to be the first heroic. 20 is here for Freedom.
Cocoon not used yet. Neither has Odin because Psalm is within the Dragon Knight. So Tempo Storm happy to get this keep, a second keep pressure, and then go away. Team Freedom have had enough. It's time for them to get into a fight. Cocoon immediate. Twilight Dream hits everybody from Team Freedom, but Arthas goes down.
And that was that without Sanctification. Insomnia goes for the Holy Ground Spit. There is going to be the Sanct as they move up. Ancestral lands onto Psalm. They're in the Odin as he is kiting back. Zugrug out of mana. Looks like he is going to turn around even though they have already lost the Arthas here. Tempo Storm are miles behind, but with the pressure on bottom, Freedom realizes they cannot venture out any farther. They're going to have to rid of some of the catapults and worry more about this next Dragon Knight phase.
Again, collusion with the big mouth plays. Twilight Dream there. So integral in allowing Team Freedom to get a kill on Caterpillar. With these long respawn timers, Team Freedom trying to get as much pressure as they can on the battleground. Pushed out the lanes, especially in mid and bottom where those catapults have been starting to push in toward the core.
Looks like we're setting the battlefield to be on bottom there with the Merc pressure. The bottom Knights are up. Freedom's going to be able to capitalize on those. With Arthas spawning, he is making his way towards bottom as well. And now we have made it to the level 20 mark for Freedom, so they at least have the epic Mount Falstad. Suddenly, their control of rotation should be a lot greater than they were earlier in the game, but it only sets it slightly above that of Tempo. So Tempo Storm is now finally going to be behind when it comes to rotations. It's just whether or not they can force the issue when it comes to the mercenaries and the lane control. Having these pressured out, Falstad is going to capture the top shrine and then fly on bottom. So Tempo desperately forcing here on bottom. They get it.
Yep, Syndragosa's already gone down. Nasmus once again flies in to be able to zone with a Mighty Gust, and they burn through Fury's health bar, but June, the savior, Ancestral Healing will hit. Rhaegar keeps Anubarak alive.
Keeps everybody alive, but that is 3 heroics for both sides. Twilight Dream and Sanctification on one side. Horrified and Odin in the hands of Tempo Storm. Falstad still questioning if he should go top to be able to get that shrine, but then Tempo Storm starts to move up here on bottom. Falstad is committing to the top shrine, so Tempo Storm will be able to pick up bottom.
Freedom has a long way to run, and Tempo Storm has a long way they can chase, but Insomnia dives back in! Odin doesn't save Tychus! Sanctification's there, and it's go time for Team Freedom. Trying to chase down, trying to get more kills on Tempo Storm.
And now Insomnia is getting the channel here on bottom. Falstad made the flight, but wasn't in a position to be able to actually join the real fight, so instead gonna go towards mid. Nasmus is picking up Freedom's first Dragonite of this game, 22 minutes into it. They're going for the bottom fort here, but they need a minimum of a keep. They've got to try and settle that pressure happening on the map. You know, conveniently, Tempo Storm still has pressure up in the top lane, which makes it that much more important for Freedom.
Mid even is grouping a big minion wave there too, so Freedom have to do what they can relatively quickly before having to send somebody back to deal with that. Again, they do have Epic Mount for Falstad, but Nasmus is the one inside the Dragon Knight, so Freedom are all in getting this keep before they would back off.
They're going to be able to get the first keep here, as we see 55 minutes left on that Dragon Knight, sitting at 37 HP. They're going to go towards the mid fort. That was my question. Do they set their eyes onto the core and try and go for that, or do they instead go for the mid fort play, pressure outward? It's going to be the mid fort.
One catapult having been dealt with in the mid. Team Freedom still able to keep this siege going. Syndragosa.
Really desperate Syndragosa. Can they get a kill out of it? 3-man Howling Blast afterwards. A lot of damage onto Collusion. But 1 second before Twilight Dream up, Gus splits Cattle. He has nothing to keep him up, and he goes down. Collusion keeps himself alive with the kite here, and Tempo Storm is going to be down to man. Zugbrook dwarf tosses in, and now that is 2 members down. Freedom is not done.
That was just about the most impactful ice block I have ever seen from Collusion. Sanctification, maybe not as necessary, maybe not needed, not getting Freedom more kills, but even with that, Team Freedom have taken out 2. They're still being able to keep these staggered death times down for Tempo Storm, and now Syndragosa is enabling Tempo Storm to start the fight, but they're having trouble keeping everyone alive through Team Freedom's damage, especially with Vile Infection completed.
And what we see happening right now with Tempo Storm is the fact that they have gone Syndragosa Cocoon, lack of sustain for both of those warriors, and when they use their CC and they don't get anything out of it, they just lose the team fights later on. Now, Tempo Storm Freedom is just casually walking up to their core. They're going to try and all in this. They don't have Sanctification up for 57 seconds.
They had Gust and they used it on Som. It's going down 50% and falling. Team Freedom just looking to tie things up, and they will get it. Taking out Tempo Storm, sustaining through a lot of damage early on to win it in the late game.
That just happened. Is how I feel about it.
Insightful.
I just, you know, I didn't really expect Freedom to be able to team fight. Like, we knew they had a late game composition to be able to power spike it out, but Tempo was just so dominant for the first part of the game. I was like, that has to be it. And I mean, I'm always, you know, not a fan of anytime we see double warrior between a noob and Arthas. If one of them is not going supporty, it's just, I'm almost always going to be critical of it, but I thought they were so dominant in how they were executing. I was like, no way, they've got this. 2 keeps up. They have to have colossal, continuous mistakes, and just one death after the other, and Freedom gets a win.
Yeah, it was huge for Freedom to be able to put Tempo in that staggered death situation late game, and they did prey on Tempo's inability to keep everyone alive. You know, Twilight Dreams hitting at the perfect moment, even focusing on Collusion at the end and Ice Block, keeping him alive, even though Horrified dropped down on 3. That was everything for Team Freedom. So they're able to tie things up. We will head into game number 3. First, we're going to a break. We'll see you after that.